Good afternoon, everyone. It is officially afternoon now, 12:01. Thank you all for joining us for our lunch session today during Fix a Leak Week. My name is Jim Ostrowski. I work in Eagle's Environmental Support Division, and I'm just going to help moderate today's session. We've got about 103 people logged in right now. I know many more will start to come on as we get started. So this session at Fix a Leak Week, you might have joined us for the one on Tuesday. This one is repairing water leaks in disadvantaged communities. So glad to see so many people logging in. That's great to see. Just a couple housekeeping guidelines. All lines are muted, which means that you can hear us, but we can't hear you. We are recording this webinar, so we'll be posting that hopefully later on today or Monday if we can't get it up today on our YouTube channel. I think that actually is all I got to talk about. So I'm going to turn it over. Oh, one more thing. If you want to ask a question, we'll be taking questions towards the end. And this webinar does go to 12:45, so it's 45 minutes. You can submit your questions in the Q&A box. You can click the raise hand icon if you'd like to voice your question. If you'd rather do it that way, just click the raise hand icon. If there's anybody on the phone, doesn't look like we have any phone callers, but if somebody should call in on the phone, you can click #2, and that will allow you to raise your hand. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nina. Nina Sassy, you there?
All right, can you see my screen?
Yep, we can see your screen, but I can't see you yet.
All right, let me work this out 1 second. All right, PowerPoint up, and now I'm up. Okay.
All right.
Thank you for joining us for our second webinar of the week. As Jim mentioned, we had a great webinar on Tuesday that really focused on how do we connect the work as far as energy and water conservation. This presentation this afternoon will be more focused on how do we support these efforts in disadvantaged communities. So I'm excited to give you an overview of the agenda and what's to come. I'm going to start off by just providing you with some details about the water leak pilot. Not sure if this is loading up there. Water leak pilot, that's an initiative that was recently launched from the office just last month. So I'll give you some details about that. I think that's going to be a great introduction into introducing Patrick Gupri from Wayne Metro Community Action Agency, as well as Adrian Bennett, who is the president and CEO of Benkari Plumbing and Water Conservation. They were great partners in this work. And again, I want them to share their experiences and the things that they were doing prior to this water leak pilot. So let's jump right in. So if you're not familiar with the Office of the Clean Water Public Advocate, I want to start by saying one of the priorities of this office for 2021 is really water conservation efforts. Now, from a water advocate standpoint, that looks a little bit different. I'm not saying that you shouldn't use water. I'm saying that we want to reduce water waste because we want to make sure that we have that water quality lens. And so we're keeping that water moving within the system. So in particular, a lot of the initiatives that come out of the office will focus around addressing water leaks. Now, today's focus will be on how we're doing that within the home, so premise plumbing leaks. But there's also going to be some work throughout the year in looking at how can we address these leaks both within the treatment facility and distribution system, so getting the water to the resident and how that may be impactful on affordability and water quality for the community. So again, this is a huge priority. We know that, again, these have implications that can lead to water access loss and water quality. So we know this is very important, and we're excited to do this work. So as I mentioned, the Focus on Water initiative, that's where this water leak pilot came from. And again, I launched the Focus on Water initiative because I really wanted to stress the importance of having diverse stakeholders at the table. So you'll see throughout this presentation all of the great partners that we have there, because it's really about that collaboration and joining resources for a greater impact. So why the water leak pilot? So in just visiting with communities, we know that disadvantaged communities in particular have older infrastructure, older homes. So what that means is that there's a lot of water and energy waste associated with that. So getting together with partners in both Highland Park and Benton Harbor, we thought, what can we do to address this? What's maybe the first step? Now, again, we talked about, again, it's a multi-layered, both within the home, the distribution system, and the treatment facility. So we thought, what can we do that would be impactful as a first step? And that's where we came up with this water leak pilot. Now, again, I mentioned in the introduction, we have to have that water quality lens. So in both communities, both Highland Park and Benton Harbor, they have a lead action level exceedance. So we want to make sure that we're telling residents that you should continue to flush your water. We're not telling you not to use it. We don't want that water stagnating in the system. What we want you to do is address those leaks within your home. Because again, there's cost savers associated with that if we were to repair a toilet or a leak, and it would ultimately impact and help the resident in the end as far as cost savings and water quality. So that was kind of the premise of the water leak pilot. And again, making sure that we had that water quality lens to it. What I hadn't talked about, and again, it kind of goes back to that presentation that we had on Tuesday. How are we connecting both water and energy? So within this water leak pilot, what we're seeing is, okay, if we have a plumber come in and they replace a toilet or do some upgrades to a toilet and make it more efficient, what are the water savings for that customer? And what are the energy savings? Now, those energy savings might be really small if you think about it at the residential standpoint, but for the community overall, that could be a great impact of making sure that you address these things. So we're hoping to get some great data from this water leak pilot and hope to be able to share that with you at a later time. So how do we do this work? And again, it really goes back to the diverse stakeholders that we had at the table. So we had community-based organizations like the Benton Harbor Water Council, we had Highland Park Human Rights Coalition, we had our consulting partners, so Metro Consulting Associates, Safe Water Engineering, universities at the table, we had state government and local partners and local plumbers. So again, you're going to hear from some of those partners that were very pivotal in helping us develop this water leak pilot and continuing the work beyond this water leak pilot. So you'll hear from Binkari, who is actually going to be doing the plumbing work in Highland Park, and then Wayne Metro, who really helped us develop this blueprint. They've been doing this work for years. They've been doing water conservation efforts in the Detroit area through GLEWA for years. And so they were able to provide us with some of their lessons learned as we were implementing this pilot in both communities. So just want to give you an overview of the timeline for this water leak pilot. Again, we just launched in February, so just last month. We are underway in both communities with water audits where they'll be going through the home and looking for these water leaks in ways that we can help with water efficiency and energy efficiency. We talked about both communities having a lead action level exceedance. So we have an enhancement to this system that allows us to have direct referrals to MDHH's Healthy Homes so that those pilot participants can have lead abatement services and assessment services. We talked about, again, the premise plumbing repairs. We hope to have those start in March. We have plumbers for both communities. So we have RW Lapine and Benton Harbor, and then again, Binkari in Highland Park. And then here we are at March, we have Fix a Leak Week, where again, our messaging is how do we connect the work with water and energy conservation? And two, how do we do this important work in disadvantaged communities? I wanted to give a shout out to Benton Harbor Community Water Council. I mentioned that they are partners in this water leak pilot. They had a great kickoff event and they shared some pictures. Again, they're really our boots on the ground partners that were able to really help recruit residents. It's about having that familiar face. And thanks to Reverend Pinckney and his team, they have already recruited about 40 to 50 residents in Benton Harbor. And we're hoping again to have that work as far as the repairs done really soon. So again, I really love these pictures showing the work getting done and the team that's doing it. So again, if you're from a community water supply and you're thinking, how do I plug into this? Again, we'll have some tips on the website. I'm hoping to have some grant funding available again, so that we can look at those water and energy savers, both within the distribution system and that water treatment facility. So be on the lookout for that. Take a look at michigan.gov/Fix-A-Leak-Week, and we'll have our next steps plan outlined there. Okay, I already covered this. And next, I'm gonna hand it off to Patrick. I don't want to take up too much of the time because I want you to hear from our partners here. Again, Patrick has been doing this work for such a quite long time. And again, I'm hoping you'll talk about the CARES funding that you all received and how you were able to do those plumbing repairs late last year as well. So thanks, Patrick.
Great, so I'm going to be sharing my screen now, so bear with me while I do that. All right, can folks see this? If not, someone please jump in and let me know, because now I can only see this presentation. Okay, great, thank you, appreciate it. So yeah, my name is Patrick Gubry. I'm with Wayne Metro. Wayne Metro is a community action agency. So we do weatherization, plumbing, conservation, home repair, all that good stuff that I'm sure you're familiar with. I've personally done residential energy and water work for about 15 years, and I helped launch WRAP, the Water Residential Assistance Program, the conservation and plumbing repair component of that. So yeah, thanks for having me. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of the program, I thought I'd give a little tip or two. The first tip is how to check your whole house for leaks. So I'm getting a call from Ben Kari, so I hope that's not Adrian calling me. But if not, someone let me know. So how to check your whole house for leaks. If you want to do that, you can find your water meter. That's usually in your basement. Maybe it's under your kitchen faucet. It might be digital, but the idea is the same. Flip open the cap and take a reading, and then don't use any water in your home for 3 hours. After that 3 hours, come back, flip the cap, take the reading again. And if the reading went up while you were not using water in the home, that means you have a leak. If you're looking around and saying, I don't see a leak, but the reading went up, so I must have a leak, you almost certainly have in your home what we call a sneaky leak, which is kind of the bane of our existence. These are toilet leaks, and you can easily test for that by going to your toilet, taking the lid off the tank, throwing some food coloring in there, waiting about 10 minutes. Then the tank will be the color of the food coloring, blue in this case. Then you would lift the lid, look in the bottom, and see if you have any dye in the bottom of the toilet. If you do, that means you have a leak. And these sneaky leaks from toilets, as Adrian can tell you, can be very expensive. If memory serves me right, I believe this toilet leak was somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 to $200 a month. So they can be very expensive. So with that, I'll get into the meat of the potatoes. I want to share a little bit about our experience with WRAP, the Water Residential Assistance Program. That's from the Great Lakes Water Authority. It's in about 80 communities, 7 counties. Several different community action agencies are involved in that, and it launched in 2016. Most communities are able to offer a bill credit on a monthly basis. They're able to tackle some arrears, some back bill, and they offer conservation and minor home plumbing repair for customers who have high usage. If you want to check that out, Google Wayne Metro WRAP or WRAP Detroit or something, and you can find the flyers online. So what we like to do as part of the program is do a water audit where we assess the plumbing system, we provide education, we do some simple repairs, maybe swapping out a faucet, some basic fixture upgrades like shower heads, faucet aerators, and then we send plumbing repair to licensed plumbing companies like Adrian and Benkari Plumbing to tackle the plumbing repair. So we've done about 4,000 home audits, and I just want to share some experience from those if you're thinking about doing your own programming. First of all, in the assessment, there's many plumbing issues in a home, and they're all very important to people. It could be a sewage backup, it could be a drainage leak, it could be a non-working fixture, but only a small portion of plumbing issues affect the water bill. You're leaking toilets, you're leaking faucets, you're leaking shower diverters. So if you are really focused on leaks that cause a high water bill, you would want to be upfront about that communication or be ready with other funding to address these other plumbing issues like drainage and sewage backups. We've also found that education is critically important. I mean, if folks don't understand their water bill, they think it's kind of made up and they just look at it and pay it and move on to the next thing. So I think it's really important to understand the why of the charges on the bill and what charges a household can lower through behavior change. and also setting a target and putting a dollar amount on that. In Detroit, if you save 1 CCF, which is about 750 gallons, that adds up to about $100 a year. So giving someone that dollar amount in savings, we find to be very helpful. For fixture upgrades, we find that people are generally happy, especially if you can kind of give a true upgrade. You know, if someone has a fixed faucet aerator, which is in the top right picture, and you can give them one that pivots, that has different settings, you can twist it for different water flow settings, and it saves water. That's great. If someone has a fixed shower head and they're a senior, or they have children in the home, and you can give them a water-saving detachable shower head, people seem to be very happy with that. Toilet upgrades, you know, I think in the 90s, there was this big fear of low flow toilets and they didn't work very well. Well, those times have changed. We've had very few issues of toilet upgrades and people are generally happy with that. And on that note, don't ever say low flow. That's terrible marketing. They're water saving, not low flow. We find that to be a good phrasing. So for the repairs, the lessons learned, you know, I would recommend replacing fixtures whenever possible. There's nothing more frustrating than fixing a washer and then 6 months later, the thing is leaking again. So if you have the budget, if you have the time, would definitely recommend replacing fixtures when possible. As I mentioned earlier, these sneaky leaks are huge water bill contributors, and having great contractors is key. I will leave Adrian for that, but there's a night and day difference between someone like Adrian and maybe another plumbing company that just doesn't quite, you know, get it. In terms of repair budget, I can share some very broad estimates that probably like a $500 to $1,000 budget could do maybe 1 or 2 issues causing a high water bill. If they just have that bad toilet or just have a bad diverter, that range can typically address like the one major issue in the house causing a high water bill. A budget of around $1,500 to $2,000 is probably getting into the range of addressing most of the issues in the homes that cause a high water bill. Now, what about bigger plumbing issues like the CARES funding? I just want to really quickly share a client testimonial, which I'm not going to read the whole thing, but Ms. Larkins, this testimonial is on Wayne Metro's website, so you can check it out there. Cancer treatment, came home to find sewage, a couple feet of sewage in the basement that destroyed her water heater, her furnace. With this CARES funding, what we call emergency plumbing repair, we were able to address all these issues. And I'll highlight the end of her testimonial where she says, I can now go into the bathroom and flush the toilet. I can wash my dishes without having to boil water. There are a lot of folks in situations where they cannot go into their bathroom and flush the toilet, where they cannot wash the dishes without boiling water. So with that in mind, you know, whether you call it CARES funding or Corona Relief Fund, DWSD has also provided funding. We have been able to start tackling what we call emergency plumbing repair. That is getting water access to homes with major plumbing issues, from needing whole house repiping to needing drainage work to needing fixtures installed. We've done hundreds of homes so far through that, and that average job cost is definitely north of $8,000, and the single job cost can be much higher. If you think about a home that needs a repipe, they need a dig to replace the main drain line. They need their heating system repaired because a frozen house in that the pipes will burst. The water heater is out. The single job cost can be quite high for that. And it sounds like you guys already talked about this on Tuesday, but obviously energy and water are connected. I can share this presentation, but U of M did a study a few years ago for our WRAP clients, and I found it very interesting that 51% of households reported switching between bills, paying the energy bill until there's a shutoff threat for the water bill, then paying the water bill until there's a shutoff threat for the energy bill. I also found it interesting in that study that almost just 1% of people thought that water should be free. So no one's thinking, hey, water should be free. A lot of people are still struggling to pay the bills, even though they do see the value of the water system and you know, clean water. So with that, I think my overall lessons learned are, you know, thinking about healthy homes, energy, water. You need leak repair. I think that's kind of the baseline. It would be great, or you need broader plumbing repair, the bill assistance, you need a working heating system. to have a working plumbing system. You need an affordable energy bill to have an affordable water bill, and all these things are interconnected. But that being said, I do think fixing leaks is a key component of that. If someone has a toilet that is causing them a $200 a month increase in their water bill, well, they're not going to have any of those above things. So I think that is kind of the perfect place to start. And I think I can send out this presentation, but I will leave it at that. You can reach out to me, or if you're on the community side, Jerome Drain handles our community water supply relations. He's also a very helpful person to reach out to. And yeah, that's it for me.
Thanks, Patrick. That was great. Do we have Adrienne from Benkari? I know that she was attempting to call you. I'm hoping she's not having any technical issues.
Yeah, I can give her a call on my phone. I'm going to drop out of just put myself on mute and video and give her a call and see if there's any tech issues, or I'm not sure if someone
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear
hey.
you. Great.
Okay,
Great.
yes. Okay, thank you. Sorry about, there's no visual, but I hope that's okay. Good morning or good afternoon, and thank you everyone for having me. This is Adrienne Bennett with Benkari Plumbing and Water Conservation. And what I'd like to do is to talk to you about the history that we've had with this program. We been working with, we started out with EcoWorks, and Patrick and I are very good friends. We've been working together for quite a while. And so the program, we initially were invited to the program back in 2016. And we wanted to see how we could impact and save water as far as consumption and also on the water bill. The RAP program is the one we were introduced to. And again, Patrick has shared with you about the RAP program and the success of it. And we were fortunate enough to be the plumbing contractor to work with him on that program. And in 2016, I'd like to share with you some data. We did about almost just north of 700 homes in 2016. And we found about 2,200 plumbing issues. And this is with the RAP program. And once we went in and we took care of the plumbing repairs, we were able to look at a savings per home just under $600. And that is fantastic. I'll never forget a conversation I had with one lady who told me her water bill was $400 a month. And once we left her home, it dropped down to $70 a month. I think that is saying a lot by talking about how important this program is and the effect it can have on the amount of your water bill and the amount of water that you're using or wasting and not understanding what's happening in your home. In the year 2017, we were fortunate enough to be able to do just over 1,000 homes, and the savings came to $420 per home. We found over 3,000 plumbing issues, and we were able to go in and effectively repair all the issues we were able to find, whether it was through repair or replacement. So again, this RAP program has been essential in our community and helping our clients to lower their water bills. I'm going to speed up to 2019. And in 2019, we were able to do even better. We were averaging over, I'm going to say 1,040 homes we did for the RAP program. And with that, we increased the savings to $500 per home. And how do we accomplish that? We accomplish that by coming into your home and asking you to please work with us and give us a clear workspace so we can come into your home and make sure we have the accessibility we need at your kitchen, in your bathroom, in your basement, and also outside to your hose ducts. When we enter into your home, we will be looking at whether we need, if we can repair or if we have to replace. So let's take your kitchen. You have a kitchen faucet. If you have a faucet that's dripping, we'll look and see if we can, again, repair it by changing the washers, changing the stems. And if not, if it's too old and we can't find the parts for it, then we will go ahead and replace it. The same thing with your lav in your bathroom. Some of you call it a sink. The professional name for it is a lavatory. And we'll do the same thing. If we see we have if the handles are not working, if we have a leak at the base, if we have leak at the handles, or if the faucet, the spigot itself is leaking, we will attempt to repair it. And if we are unable to repair it, then we will go ahead and replace it. Now, it's a little bit more challenging when it comes to your tub and shower, because you're diverting the water from your tub to your shower head, and there's a device in there that converts the water from the tub to the shower head, and it's called a diverter. If you have leaks at the handles, that's one thing. If you have a leak at the diverter, that's another thing. If you have a leak at the faucet. So we have to break the shower down and actually get into the nuts and bolts of it, look at the stem, look at the washers, looking at all the components of the shower and the diverter and see if it can be replaced. And again, if it can, we will go ahead and replace all the parts. And if not, we will go ahead and replace the entire
Hello, just checking in. I think we may have lost Adrian. Nina, can you?
Yeah, I thought maybe it was just my computer.
No, I think we all think it's all right. Adrian, are you there still? We might have lost you. Okay.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Nina, I think we might
If you
have.
want to log out and then come back in, and while we're waiting, Jim, would you mind maybe going through some of the questions?
Yeah, sure. So let me reshare something here. Okay, so if you have a question today, and we'll check back in with Adrian in just a minute, we'll see if she's able to come back on. Looks like she just logged out, and we'll see if she come back on. I want to let you know if you have a question, you can type it in the question box, or you can, oh, that's the wrong slide, or you can raise your hand. And also, if you're on the phone, was a couple of you people on the phone, click #2, and it'll raise your hand for us. So it looks like we do have a hand raised. Teresa Landrum. Teresa, I'm going to allow you to talk so you can unmute your mic and go ahead and ask your question.
Good morning. Thank you guys for this informational. I am Teresa Landrum from Downriver. I'm a RAC 3 member with Wayne Metro. I've been helping seniors and low-income residents for the last year and a half with water problems, and Wayne Metro has been just a godsend to help these people out. Now, the question is that many of the people that I have referred for this this water repair, they say it's income-based. Is it income-based? Because we have to look at things holistically. Just because your income says one thing, your expenses may be another. So how does one go about qualifying if their income is a little higher, if there is income-based qualification? Thank you.
Thanks for that. Patrick, are you willing to talk about it from the Wayne Metro perspective? And then maybe I can add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm specifically on the conservation side, but I think that is really a challenge because you do get these income limits of like 200%. And you know, what's the difference between a household at 199% of federal poverty level and 201% poverty level? I mean, in my career, I think that's been across all programs kind of an issue. So I don't have a great answer to that. Maybe that's more of a state wide thing, but any advocacy you can do, any client testimonials, any story that you can bring of, hey, I worked with, you know, Miss Smith and she's a grandma and she's got 5 kids, she's taking care of her house, but her income is 202%. And here's her story and here's her testimonial. You know, we have been able to expand our income for a lot of programs. For example, RAP started out at 150, and through a lot of work and partnerships and probably through folks you were sending us, you know, we were able to bring this information to the GLEWA board and say like, hey, there's a lot of people at 175, at 190 who need this service. And the GLEWA board did in fact expand it to 200. So I think it does work in the long term. I don't have a great short-term answer for that, however, and I would more broadly say, I think, you know, especially compared to 10 or 15 years ago, if you're starting a program and thinking, okay, here's the 15 things a person does need to qualify, well, those are just 15 barriers that are going to stop someone who needs help. I mean, we've seen the survey data. People don't think they should get free water. People aren't trying to scam a system to get a water bill help. I mean, people are, you know, if anything, too hesitant to apply for help because of pride or because they think they don't quote unquote deserve it. So I would say if you have any input in designing programs, you know, any qualification will become a barrier for someone who, in my personal opinion, probably deserves the help. So, you know, the front end might be a good place to start. But yeah, that's what I got for that.
Thanks, Patrick. I will say at the state level, we're compiling this information. We know that this is something that we would like to be implemented across the state. You know, as we think about water restoration during COVID and water access, you know, we know that there's barriers there. We know that, again, we need to address those comprehensively. So I would say, Teresa, please reach out to me. My email address is listed on the slide. Maybe not on the slide that's up, but maybe someone can drop it in the chat. Reach out to me. Let's talk about these barriers, because again, as we're thinking about this and scaling it out, I want to hear about what we can do and how we should address these concerns.
Thanks, Nina. I just let you know, Adrian is back on, so.
Yes, I am. And I do apologize for that. I'm not sure what all you heard in my conversation, but basically I would like to say that if you chiming back to what Patrick said, with the programs, with the RAP program, with the CARES program, Benkari has been able to go in and improve the quality of the life of our community, because there are clients out there who do not have the proper water flow. They do not have the proper fixtures that are working adequately. You may have leaks in your pipes. You may have leaks at your faucets. Those are things that in these programs, we can come out and take care of these issues for you. I know they can be intimidating. You're not knowing how to take care of it. And I have to recommend that you hire a licensed plumber. And the reason I say that is because water is something that we all use. And if for some reason you do something incorrectly, you can get sick from drinking bad water. And we don't want anyone to go in there and cross-connect the piping, change anything, and end up having some issues within their home. It's better for you to get into one of these programs and let us come in and take care of the issues for you. Again, and if you do look at taking care of some of the issues yourself, what I like to recommend to lower water conservation, that a shower head, if you're out at Home Depot or your local hardware store, you can find a shower head that's going to be 0.5 gallons per minute. That will lower the amount of water that you're using and will also affect the amount of your water bill. With the toilet, if you know how to put a toilet in, that's fine. They're very heavy. I would not recommend it. If you do not, you can hire a qualified plumber, a licensed plumber, to do that for you. Changing out the 5 or 6 gallon per flush toilet to a 1.5 or lower, you're going to also see dramatic savings in your water bill and your water consumption. Again, we have seen savings of up to $500. Some water bills are that high, and we're able to either do 70% savings on your water bill, and that is a dramatic savings that you will see. One other thing I'd like to, Patrick had mentioned about when it comes to if you have low pressure in your home, no matter what fixtures you put in, if you have low pressure and you have galvanized piping in your home, that's that silver color piping, it's metal, that piping will corrode and the diameter of the pipe will decrease almost to just where you can get a P to go in it. It will corrode inside and that will decrease the pressure of water that you're getting into your home. So no matter what fixtures you're putting in, if your house needs to be repiped, that is definitely a job for a plumbing contractor that will come in, remove all your old galvanized piping, and put in a new water system for you. That way you will have the proper pressure to all of your fixtures. Now, if you do decide to try to change some of your piping and your water turns brown or gold in color, what has happened, you have shut your water off, and now you've disrupted the scale inside the galvanized piping. And when you turn the pressure back on, it's going to change the color of your water. What you need to do is that you need to take the aerators off, which is at the tip of all of your faucets. It screws on, it has a very fine thread on it. So be careful not to cross thread them. And you would remove them righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, remove it, and then you turn the faucets on at your tub and at your laundry tub, at your kitchen sink, and let them go full throttle until you get all that corrosion, as much of it as out as possible. And then your water should turn back clear. If it doesn't, that means you're going to need a full repipe in your home. And that can be in excess of over $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000, depending on how many bathrooms you have in your home. Okay, so that's about all the information I have for you. If you have any questions, Nina, and thank you again, Nina, for this opportunity for the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy for having Ben Curry on as your partner.
Thank you, Adrienne, and you are amazing. Those tips are going to be really helpful. I know that you also shared some that we'll have on the website for Fix a Leak Week. So thank you again for your partnership.
Thank you.
So,
Right. Thanks, Adrienne.
Jim,
Glad
did
we
you-
got you back on.
right.
And,
So,
Nina, we
Jim,
got
do we have any
several
more
questions
out there?
Yeah, we got several questions that have come in. Here's a question that I don't know if you want to address or have somebody else, but this says many living in disadvantaged communities are renters. How do you reach out to the landlords, find and then fix the leaks in their buildings?
So I know there's a process at Wayne Metro, and we have one similar with the water leak pilot where we're just asking for consent. So we reach out to the owner, and there's some language to make sure we're being protective of both the resident and the owner when we're doing these repairs. Patrick, would you like to talk about that from Wayne Metro?
Yeah, that can be a challenge. We're mainly focused on single family homes. So I think a future project, it would be really great to think about multifamily homes. We're not quite there yet. It's kind of a carrot and a stick. I mean, I think most landlords are okay with free repairs. So we do try to get their permission. It's kind of a one-on-one basis, you know, text them a landlord agreement that they can sign by just typing their name in. And then I guess the stick is if the home's in a really bad condition. I mean, in Detroit and most other cities, there is a inspection process that you can, you know, request from the city, and they'll come out and do an inspection and require the landlord to, you know, make those repairs on their own. So, you know, that's kind of the stick if you know, the landlord isn't as cooperative. But in the end, it's kind of up to them too. I mean, we can't really force them to. So certainly if the landlord is unfortunately combative, there may not be a resolution there.
Jim, we can't hear you.
Thanks. Are water utilities required to contact customers with abnormally high usage? If not, why? The example of a bill dropping from $400 to $70 seems like a perfect case where the utility should have already been in touch with that customer.
So we do have water utilities that have that software where they can easily reach out to their customers if they see a spike. And so we do have, you know, that technology there. What I will say is that what we're hoping to do here with Eagle is make sure, again, that that's prioritized. Not every water utility has that software. And so it could be more of a manual process that they may not have the capacity to do. But for the most part, the utilities that do have that software, they are sending it out, either a notice via phone, email, or in their monthly bill, just saying, hey, we noticed that there's a high amount of usage based on the number of residents that you have in the home. and then recommending that they call a plumber or reach out to them for assistance. So that is available, not everywhere. But again, I think we're trying to prioritize making sure that all water utilities have access to that great software so that they can support residents and community.
All right. This question might be for Adrian or whoever wants to answer it, but oh, I just lost there. It is. If a plumbing company has a lot of plumbing employees, is it reasonable to ask the plumber they send out to show a license? Are all licenses the same? Only one kind of license?
Okay, for Ben Curry, most plumbing companies will have one master plumber, and I am the master plumber. I hold the license for the company. All responsibilities falls under the master plumber's license, which is registered with the state of Michigan. And you can go to michigan.gov and you can see all the licensed master plumbers that are there, and you will see my license as well. So no, not every person comes to your home will have a license. But if you are with the Eagle program, if you're with RAP program, if you're with Wayne Metro, you will be working with a company that has hired, they've done their research. Eagle, I believe, has a copy of my master plumber's license. That's a part of their requirement with our contract. Wayne Metro has a copy of my master plumber's license, which is a part of our contract. So again, my license is the one license. That's the one and only license that you need. And trust me, I'm not going to do anything to jeopardize, because that is my bread and butter. So to answer that question, whatever organization that you're dealing with, ask them about the master plumber that they have on file, and make sure that that license is current, that they're insured and they're bonded. Hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thanks. And I think if you haven't checked it out already, everybody, Anita has been putting some contact information and links in the chat, so you can check out those if you need to get a hold of anybody. I think we have time for one more question, Nina, before we got to wrap it up. Question is, can you assist apartment complexes and associations to install individual water meters to differentiate between what water is being used by the complex as compared to the water being used by the individual?
May I make a comment about that one?
Sure.
Okay, Ben Curry is also a new construction contractor. And so we have done multiple family dwellings, and we are actually installing separate meters per unit. And that is the one thing that the water department is embracing. It helps when it comes down to identifying who's using the volume of water, the consumption of water, and it makes it a lot easier when it comes to issuing bills. Now, for older apartment units, it's going to take a plumbing contractor to come in and repipe that entire unit. And that goes back to the landlord, if the landlord is willing to do that. It's something that can be done. It can be very costly, but I think in the long run, it's going to be beneficial because each tenant will know how much they're paying or their usage of water. Even with buildings in downtown Detroit that's been revamped, they were closed for years, and they've got tenants throughout the building. That's the one thing they're doing as well. They're looking at individual meters for the tenants in the commercial buildings. So this would be something that in apartments that, again, if it's an old building, you can talk to the landlord and see if the landlord would be willing to go and sit down with the Detroit Water and Sewage Department, and they would have to get that approval. And then a water plumbing contractor would have to be hired after that to do the repiping and also do the installation of the meters. Hope I answered your question.
Yes, thanks, Adrian. Nina, looks like we're getting to our 12:45 end time. We did have lots of other questions that I will share with the team after we're done here, but I'll let you kind of wrap it up, Nina, if you'd like.
Right. I just want to thank everyone again for joining us. These two webinars have been great. We've had great presenters really share information. What I want to highlight is that I'd like for you all again to visit michigan.gov/Fix a Leak Week, because I really want us to think about those next steps. You know, for Fix a Leak Week, this isn't a 1 week effort. this work has to continue beyond this. And so we've outlined what we plan to do here within the office and Eagle, but I'd love to hear from you. We want to keep this work going. Again, we know that we have to prioritize water and energy conservation efforts in disadvantaged communities, and we need to figure out how to get it done. So I'd love to hear from you. You have my email right there. Check out the Fix a Leak Week page, and thanks again for joining us.
All right, thanks, Nat. I just want to remind people that you will be in a little bit getting an email from us with a link to an evaluation. If you were on Tuesday's webinar, you should have get an email from me earlier with a link to an evaluation. We'll be sharing these recordings up on YouTube shortly as well, and everyone who registered, we will get a link to the direct link to the YouTube recording. So thank you all for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day.